Good night, everyone. I did do a broadcast earlier on Justice League, the DCEU, and the future of the DCEU. I'm sorry that I had to cut that broadcast off. I was so tired, man. I needed to take a rest. I still need to take a rest again. But I got some videos coming up, and we're going to talk first of all about Justice League, the DCEU. If you guys have questions, don't forget you can put it in the chat section right over. Sorry. Yeah, I think I've been doing it right over there to the side of here. If you want to join this hangout, I will put the link in the chat section. All right. Really sorry that I couldn't really talk with you guys, but I was so tired. I was absolutely exhausted. I fell asleep, just came back up, got something to eat, and I'm back here to really talk about that. I see we have somebody already watching. You can, of course, participate in the chat section right across there. You can participate by speaking in the chat section. So let's get to it. So the last time I was with you guys, I was showing you guys some memes and stuff. I'm not going to go into all of that again. I'm just going to discuss the DCEU in a little bit more detail with you guys because I think it's worth the while to talk about the DCEU. So there are a couple of things about the DCEU that are pretty interesting. Okay, I already kind of covered some stuff and I deleted that video. I'm sorry about that. I deleted the video. Wonder Woman. There's actually a continuity between Wonder Woman and Justice League, but you can't talk about Wonder Woman in a vacuum. You have to talk about the continuity in respect to Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. You have to speak to it in terms of that. So there's a complete consistency between what we saw in Batman v Superman, what we saw in Wonder Woman, and what we saw in Justice League. In fact, her entire arc is there. But we also have to deal with the ancillary characters around Wonder Woman. Particularly Steve Trevor is an important factor when we're speaking about Wonder Woman. We also have to speak about the world and how it has transpired. That's also an additional character when we're speaking about Wonder Woman. There are a lot of stories in between, one of which I think is going to pop up in Wonder Woman 2, which is supposed to be in the 80s, the Cold War era. So that when we talk about, Patty Jenkins is going to fill in some more of the gaps in Wonder Woman. Remember, Wonder Woman has a continuity. I remember Gal Gadot talking about how Wonder Woman never walked away from mankind, that she never really did that, literally speaking. But figuratively speaking, she moved herself out of the spotlight. She was in a sort of special ops sort of mission that she had where she was destroying Ares and so on. But she had kind of declared herself to the world in the film Wonder Woman, where Rupert Grayson did a beautiful, inspiring score that to this day, it reminds me a bit of Gladiator. It evokes emotion. I almost feel like crying at a certain point when she's walking, when she's going across the battlefield. And it's amazing that she did not cross that battlefield to engage the soldiers. She crossed that battlefield to save a village. It's a totally different paradigm. And that pretty much summarizes why Wonder Woman cares and why she would never abandon mankind. She never abandoned mankind. However, she did move in the shadows. And I think a lot of people in the DCU community understood this. And a lot of people in the DCU community identified with that and understood what was said in BVS, which Chris Terrio had penned for the script when she spoke at the end and she said 100 years ago, I walked away from mankind. It didn't mean she abandoned mankind. It meant she stepped into the shadows. And she talked about the Century of Horrors, which had to do with the war, particularly World War I. And World War I was known as the war to end all wars. I've seen that term in a number of different movies, not just in Wonder Woman. And also, what was interesting about that is that the continuity of Wonder Woman, some of the focal point of that was meshed around Steve Trevor, because Steve Trevor in many ways epitomized what Wonder Woman was trying to do, which was not to win the war. She was not interested in winning anything. She was interested, like Steve Trevor, in ending the war. It was just that her pathway to ending the war, she thought, was in stopping Ares. And she learned that stopping Ares will not end wars. It will not stop the nature of mankind from being cruel, like her mother told her in the fable story about Zeus creating mankind and Ares being jealous of them. And so it was just very interesting that on her understanding that it's a choice that we make as human beings and we influence the outcomes of things, that she now realizes she cannot win that. She can't win that battle. There's no hero that can win that battle. It's up to each individual. But what she can do is push it and fight and struggle for it to move in that direction, which explains a lot, actually, why there were wars after World War I. There was World War II and a number of other wars, but Wonder Woman still worked along with mankind. And you see this theme with these heroes. Superman working along with mankind in Man of Steel. You saw Superman again work along with mankind, but was learning how to work along with mankind, honoring their rules and regulations in Batman v Superman. Learning about not trying to deal with everything unilaterally. And you will notice that in Wonder Woman, we had that also going on, where, again, working along with mankind, she learned how to do that, and she was learning how to do that. She had to disengage. That means she was not in the forefront like Superman, where the whole world knew about her. She was in the background, and she would do whatever is necessary to help out. So you see that Wonder Woman understood the role of being a helper. Superman learning that he was a guy, but he was also a helper, there to assist mankind and not to lord it, govern them, and rule over them. And this is very important for us to understand the difference between these heroes and your typical superheroes who take charge and save the day, and everybody expects them to save the day. That's not exactly what these heroes were there for. And it reminds me also of the comic books Kingdom Come, etc. And this theme, it actually is built upon and has been built upon before this. We've seen a lot of messiahs, we've seen a lot of savior movies, and one of them that I remember very much is the Matrix trilogy. And why I remember the Matrix trilogy, because one of the points that was stressed in the Matrix was Neo was there to help people be freed. And Neo also had a close bond with Trinity, and it was all about love. Now, while the Matrix was something that was still pre-set up by the machines, and they allowed some people to be free like Zion, and they allowed some people to be plugged into the Matrix, and the Matrix never was disbanded because that was part of the machines' philosophy and skill, was to make sure that since there was this anomaly in the Matrix, that they couldn't deal with that anomaly, they would have system work like that, but there would still be the Matrix. So the Matrix exists. And in the trilogy of the Matrix, Neo is a savior, but he's really a programmed savior. There are limits to what he can save. And the system is built in such a way that Neo really cannot cause the Matrix at any time to be abandoned and destroyed. He will never succeed at doing that. And it has been so for at least he's the 7th generation or 6th generation, whatever it was. But it's interesting that Neo assists the Matrix in its efforts, whereas these heroes assist mankind. Now, here's the other interesting thing about these movies that I haven't really talked about, because there's a lot of overlap with other movies and stuff. The DCEU movies, if you look at the DCU, that is, and you look at Justice League, and why Justice League is such a rich movie. Remember, it is the 3rd of a trilogy. Is that the Justice League, especially we're talking about Wonder Woman right now, Justice League ties in not only the DCEU movies from the very beginning, which would be Man of Steel, but also ties into some other themes and actually extends other themes from other movies before. And Zack Snyder seems to have been influenced by certain directors, and he seems to go along certain lines, which I truly appreciate. The lines of The Matrix, of course, the Wachowski sisters. We also have the lines of Tim Burton, and how Tim Burton created his world and how he constructed his world. There's a lot of that Zack Snyder is following in the footsteps of and pays homage to. I don't think that he's really paying homage too much to Schumacher. I think he has paid some homage to the original Superman 1978 movie, and I've showed you guys certain parallels to that. But of course, it also comes from the comics. He pays a lot of homage to the comics. But going back to Wonder Woman, because I kind of went off on a tangent for a minute, Wonder Woman's ideals, though she was assisting mankind and she's dedicated to assisting mankind, and that was clarified in the Wonder Woman movie. In Justice League, we get exactly what we've been saying about the DCU, but a little bit more than meets the eye. Like I said before, Steve Trevor, the ancillary character, Steve Trevor, also Etta Candy and her crew, those ancillary characters also have continuity. And even the deleted, or what we call the additional scenes of Wonder Woman, have also bring forward continuity into Justice League. So Justice League gives us a really nice full arc and a carryover from Wonder Woman and also from Batman v Superman. I'll explain explicitly what I mean in a minute. But first, let me just go see if you guys have any comments that I'll need to handle here on YouTube, because there may be a bunch of you that are up on YouTube that may be talking to me at present. So let's make sure there's nobody here. Okay, there's no one here at this present point in time making comments. Now, you can always leave your comments in the chat section. I remember William Ruffin started commenting, but I don't know if he's up right now. It's very late where he is. Imran Batra says, hey, all right, great, Imran. And okay, you can always leave your comments. Those of you who are watching, you can leave your comments in the comment section here. You can ask any questions, Imran Batra, concerning the DCEU, Justice League, and the future of the DCEU. You know, Shazam's coming around the corner. Aquaman's coming around the corner. So you can always leave your comments there. I'm very interested in entertaining your questions and fueling your questions as well. Also, let me leave a link to the Hangout if anybody wants to join the Hangout. There's some rules for the Hangout I just want to say right now. We're going for a little while. Rules for the Hangout are simple. In the Hangout, you need to we mute all mics and then we speak one at a time, all right? But other than that, everything else should be hunky-dory. Let me just put the link for the Hangout there. If anyone wants to join the Hangout, you can. Imran Batra says, thoughts on the recent Shazam costume reveal. Well, I like what I'm seeing with Shazam so far. The costume reveal looks pretty good. It's a red suit. Basically looks kind of like Shazam's suit. I'm looking to see what context the story is about. I still don't know too much about the story. For those people who don't know, Shazam is basically a character who is sort of the hopes and dreams and wishes of a young boy named Billy Batson. So Shazam he's not all around. He's not mature at all. And he's all based on magic. So like the movie Big, if you go and watch that with Tom Hanks, we expect Shazam to be something like that. So it's not, I mean, I love that you're getting all these different colors, hues, and flavors. And all I say to Warner Brothers is leave the directors to do what they, leave their vision intact. My problem with Justice League, if I were to be honest with everybody, is that Warner Brothers did not trust in what Zack was literally doing. And to that extent, they compromised certain things. As much as I admire and enjoy and love Justice League, I understand that Zack's vision, his vision for the movie, which was seen on the screen, but was not in its completeness and in its entirety, and the movie itself is kind of incomplete in terms of visual effects. I believe that was hurt, not in a tremendous way that it hurt the movie's box office. I think that had to do with fans, and it had to do with just the negativity about the movie on a whole. Because, as I said before, Justice League is, if it's not the best movie of 2017, it's damn near close to the best movie of 2017, okay? And they had a lot of good movies in 2017, in terms of comic book movies, that is. So it's up there. But it's so much negativity towards Warner Brothers, who's given us Wonder Woman. It's given us Man of Steel. It's given us Batman v Superman. It's given us Batman v Superman in the Ultimate Cut. It's given us Suicide Squad, which is another fantastic movie. And I need to break down that movie as well in terms of, you know, taking footage and actually showing you guys what's in that movie. But once you keep the directors, what they really want to do and they're burning to do, their passion on the screen. They were about to cut, remember, Warner Bros. Was about to cut Patty Jenkins' very inspiring scene where Wonder Woman goes across this no man's land to save a village. That is a key piece. It's a focal point of the movie. It's what Wonder Woman is. And what's amazing is that motif goes on into Justice League when she saves, again, she saves the lives of people who were under a terrorist attack, the hostages inside of Old Bailey, which is a court. So you have that, and again, a lot of similarities between her saving those people in Old Bailey and the very inspiring scene where she does the impossible and she crosses no man's land. These are things that Warner Bros. Wanted to cut out of the movie. And so what I'm saying is, thank God they're just executives. They don't know about movie making. And you need to leave movie making to the movie makers. You need to leave the heart and soul of a movie to the movie makers. Sometimes they cut out the heart and soul of a movie. When I saw the deleted scene for Justice League, Superman coming to get the blue suit, and I knew it was a blue suit, and I told everybody it was a blue suit, and it turned out to be the blue suit, right? That thing was so meaningful, and it ties in so much. It's like a heart and soul of the movie. It's only a couple seconds long. It's only about a minute long, maybe a minute, 15 seconds, a minute, 16 seconds. But yes, you're trimming out a minute, 16 seconds. But what you're trimming out is a part of the heart and soul of a movie. And I think that these people, they chop out some things, and it means a lot to the fandom, and it means a lot to the movie itself, coming full circle. And so that's why I would say, and they've done it a lot with Zack Snyder. They've done it to him 3 times now. Okay, so that's what kind of hurts me. It hurts me when I saw that, because I had been speaking about, you know, there not being a Zack Snyder cut out there, a finished cut, that is. I thought it was an earlier draft, and this was just a progress to that. But from the overwhelming evidence we have now from the deleted scenes, and some of the deleted scenes, they're not important to the movie, quite frankly. Flash saving Iris West is not necessarily important to the movie. There are the scenes with Cyborg that are important to the movie, because we have to realize they tell us a lot about the corrector Cyborg. Now, while we got just enough to carry the movie along, the story along, it didn't hurt the story. There are these additional things that make a story so much more. So much more. There's a difference between a solid, good movie and a masterpiece. And everybody will agree with me that this was not a masterpiece. This was a solid movie. And so these are the kinds of things I'm talking about. But going back to Wonder Woman, the continuity of Wonder Woman is not just based on Wonder Woman herself. That was not the only carryover into Justice League. Yes, it was her ideology that began in BVS. We heard why she spoke about walking away from mankind, not necessarily mean she abandoned them, but she walked away from them. And she was very accurate in saying that. But also, in terms of the context of Wonder Woman, also being, there's continuity in her story, meaning the ancillary characters or the side characters also have a say in how things went forward. We were introduced to the mother boxes yet again, a carryover from BVS. So we had BVS where we were introduced to the mother boxes with the WTF moment, where we're like, what is that? It ended up first in a deleted scene, which we did not see in the theatrical cut. And then we got a carryover to the Ultimate Cut where we saw everything in there. And then we come across from BVS, just like how we come across with Wonder Woman from BVS, into Wonder Woman. And Etta Candy, we're introduced to Etta Candy and the crew, Steve Trevor's friends. And we see that they're on a mission to get the mother boxes in Belgium and carry it across to the United the United Kingdom. And then from there, they were supposed to carry it across the United States, which is the story that Cyborg is telling us back there. And when Cyborg gets a hand on it, and this is how these stories trickle from Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is related, it's interwoven with Justice League, right? So we have the mother boxes. We have been introduced to the mother boxes first in BVS, then it carries over into Wonder Woman. And then we learn that they have a history, therefore. They've been around for a long, long time. So from Wonder Woman, it was 100 years ago, it carries all the way over to Justice League. And what carries along with the mother boxes in Justice League? Cyborg. And so we can see how Wonder Woman is linked to Cyborg. We can see how through the ancillary characters, we can see how Wonder Woman is linked to how she's linked to the helper characters. All right. Let me get into what Imran Bada was saying. Yeah, I agree. They shouldn't intervene as much as they do and allow the directors to complete their vision. See, that's the only thing. You see, I have confidence in James Wan. I have confidence in Sandberg, David Sandberg. I have confidence in these guys. I believe they're going to make fantastic movies. I really enjoyed David Ayer's Suicide Squad. Just recently looked at a little piece of it again, and Suicide Squad is just an underrated movie. It's really, really, really good, and I understand why its DVD sales did so fantastically well, better than Captain America: The First Avenger, better than Avengers: Age of Ultron. I mean, did fantastically well. Wonder Woman's doing fantastically well as well. Made past Man of Steel in terms of the highest DCEU home box office grossing. Wonder Woman's a hell of a film. But what I'm saying to you guys is that the directors, you just allow the directors to do what they do. You know, it's really sad that Zach had to leave the project, because he and Junkie were putting together something that really had my blood pumping, right? But what I got was not. It was conciliatory. It was a complimentary. Not complimentary. I'm thinking of it was secondary to what they would have given me, but I still appreciate it for what it is. And the thing about me is, I know what it was going to be after I heard Junkie, after I heard a Danny Elfman score. And if you go and look back at my videos, you see I was not really particularly pleased with what Danny Elfman did. Then I heard it in, you know, great orchestration and stereo score. I was like, oh, yeah, I could feel this. I could dig it, you know. And certain parts of the score still kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but I so love this movie now. And just the potential of what Zach was doing, and just the fact that this movie embodies coming together of two different sides of the equation, DC and Marvel. I just find it still a beautiful thing. And no matter how much people try to say that it's crap and it's nonsense, or that Whedon did crap here, I can't see that, because to me, it's a meshing of two different people coming together. And I know Zach asked Whedon to continue the project. Yes, Warner Brothers and Whedon did a little bit more than they were supposed to do. And Warner Bros. Tried to play director where they shouldn't have played director. But yet, at the same time, I'm glad that they checked Whedon, and there wasn't a whole bunch of jokes in that movie. The movie's not a comedy. It's not Thor Ragnarok. It's not Doctor Strange. It's more like Wonder Woman and Black Panther. It's got humor in it, but it is a drama. It is a serious movie with serious stakes in it. Okay. Yes, the tension kind of comes apart towards the end with Steppenwolf because of the CGI and stuff, but you still feel some of that tension in there, and that's what I appreciate. And Steppenwolf was kicking ass. Okay, he was kicking ass and writing names until Superman came up. He was going to wipe them down. You know what I'm saying? And the thing about Steppenwolf that amazes me to this day, I mean, I'm going off topic here, but the thing that amazes me, this guy took a lightning bolt from Zeus. Listen, Ares couldn't take a lightning bolt from Zeus. Okay, Ares couldn't take the lightning bolt he sent back at Wonder Woman. Steppenwolf took that shit. I mean, he couldn't fight back, but he took it. I mean, this dude was taking bullets. This dude caught a missile and looked at the missile and said, "Primitive beings." Like, what the hell? Like, the only thing that could take this guy down was fear. When his axe broke, that's the only time this dude, he actually freaked out. And to this day, I don't think Steppenwolf's dead. You know, oh my God. And he was a god. He was a god that was exiled. And, you know, listen to this guy say, you know, I will take my place among the new gods. And he turns around and he, oh my, look, man. Anyway, that's another story for another day. Sierra and Hines, my hat tip off to you, brother. But I know it was going to be so much more epic than it was. And it was epic, okay? I mean, you took Atlantis. I mean, okay. So I'm lost all track of what I was saying because I started to go off on Justice League. I'm fanboying out now. Let's focus. If Warner Brothers just allows their directors to keep, they need to hold the fort, believe in the directors, and just let their directors do their thing. Yes, you got to check them and all your screenings and stuff, but you got to be able to believe in these guys. Some of the things they cut out of film are really important parts of film. Now with David Ayer's Suicide Squad, I still think they did the right thing and they went the right direction with David Ayer's Suicide Squad. I thought the theatrical cut was better than what David Ayer actually had as his cut, the extended cut. So I'm cool with that. Unless David Ayer had something else and they still tweaked it till everybody enjoyed it, which is okay by me as well. But it's just, I just think that David Ayer's, the two movies I've seen on Netflix, I forgot what the name of the movie is, with the wand. It's a crazy movie. It's awesome. It says so much in it again. And then Suicide Squad was just a fantastic work by David Ayer, in my opinion. It's so unique. It stands out so different. And I think it's going to become a cult classic. An unknown of Raven said, man, I love the behind the scenes photo of Shazam's costume. Dude, I love it too, man. You know, I love the different flavors of the DCEU. They don't all do the thing the same way. And that's what I like about the DCEU. I'm glad they're different directors because you get a different approach every time. Patty Jenkins, different to David Ayer, different to Zack Snyder. Now we're getting James Wan. I can't wait because I know it's going to be something different again. And that's what you want. You don't want the same rehashed, rehearsed, formulaic stuff. Black Panther was a breath of fresh air to the MCU, and salute to them. You know, they're making mad money because people was going to buy that. Even if Black Panther was shit, they were going to buy it because that's just the way how the MCU runs. They got diehard fans. They have a diehard fan base that's going to support them regardless. You know, their fan base is going back crazy for Infinity War. And I can tell you right now, I'm not excited for Infinity War. Right? But Black Panther is a damn good movie. And it's not just about being black. That's another story for it. I had to unpack Black Panther in the future too. I got Star Wars, The Last Jedi. Listen, man. I don't care what nobody says. Star Wars: The Last Jedi is a masterpiece of filmmaking. People can say what they want to say. It's a masterpiece of filmmaking. I was just watching Star Wars Rebels, just a couple episodes of Star Wars Rebels there, and that's fantastic. And it seems to fall in line with Star Wars The Last Jedi. I love Star Wars: The Last Jedi. I love it. I love it. It's beautiful. Perfect. An Unkind of Raven says, I think the costumes for superheroes should return to the more fabric-based look, closer to the source materials. I disagree. I don't think it needs to be closer to the fabric-based look. What I would tell you on Kindness of Ravens is I trust the director who's directing the movie. So if they're going with a fabric-based look for their film, there must be a reason. See, that's the thing I like about Warner Brothers. They have reasons for doing their thing. And somebody broke it down on DC Fan Gives Hope. If you haven't checked out DC Fan Gives Hope, you can check it out on YouTube or you can check it out on Facebook. It's a page on Facebook, okay? And the person was explaining that Billy Batson's a child. So his concept of a superhero will not be as mature as somebody else. And since Shazam is based on magic, his costume would embrace what a child would think a superhero would be, so that it would magically display that. And so it makes sense when he says Shazam, which somebody else said in some other movie. Oh, Spider-Man actually said Shazam when he was going to shoot his web in the first Spider-Man movie, I think it was. This is kind of funny. Shout out to Shazam. But yeah, I think that because I know Warner Brothers goes deeper, they don't just go superficial with superheroes. I think that whatever approach they're going with Shazam with, I'm down with it because I know you're always going to go deeper, and you're gonna learn more about the character. And I think that David Sandberg, he's that kind of dude. And I look at also his humor and the kinds of things that might be there with Shazam. And so I'm very interested in where David Sandberg will go with this character, what he would do. And I know the approach is going to be inventive. It's going to be creative. It's going to be exciting and refreshing and new. And that's all I ask of Warner Brothers, that they keep doing those kinds of movies, and I'm okay with it. And once they keep that quality in their movies, and I heard that Henry Cavill's going to be in there somewhere. Superman's going to show up, which is probably Shazam's inspiration. Everybody's inspiration is Superman, right, in this universe. So it would make sense. Imran Batra says, yeah, me too. It actually looks pretty cool. Oh yeah, it's gonna be dope, man. It's gonna be dope. Unkindness of Raven says, I heard the hard shell or fox armor look for the characters who don't use that in the comics. It's not right. I understand what you're talking about. That kind of hard armored look. I think Batman generally has a hard armored look because he's a man, he's a human. Wonder Woman, she has a hard, she doesn't have a hard armor suit, but she has a kind of ancient suit. So she's like an ancient gladiator. She's like from the past. You know, Wonder Woman's from the past. She's very ancient. So you're looking at the ancient peoples. When you think of Superman, you don't really see that hard armor shell suit, right? You don't really see that. He's got this kind of Kryptonian sort of otherworldly alien looking sort of suit. So there's, you know, when you look at Flash now, the Flash, he got a suit that's kind of made of plates and stuff because, you know, he runs very fast. So if you slam into things, and he keeps on tripping all the time, you know, if you slam into things. Aquaman comes from the sea, so he's going to have these armored suit. He always had an armored suit. Aquaman always had armored, generally speaking. I mean, we got the Super Friends Aquaman, and he also had an armored suit, if I'm not mistaken, that orange armored plated suit with scales and stuff and mirror. So you're going to see sometimes an armored look. Sometimes you will see more of a casual, like with Mira. You're going to see armored look, and then you're going to see her. But you notice that with Aquaman, you know, you could actually hit him with a sharp-ended object like a blade or something, hit his suit with a blade, and it wouldn't even cut through the suit. So I think that, you know, you have different armor for different things. And remember, Aquaman lives in the sea with all in the deep, with all these sea creatures and his, the horror elements and all that stuff, the deep. And Aquaman himself looks like a horrific element. When you saw him in the BVS, it's coming out, you see the eyes first, then you see him, you know what I'm saying? And they're very powerful and strong. So I can't wait to see what they do with Aquaman. Again, I'm hoping that Warner Brothers doesn't compromise what James Wan wants to do, where he wants to go. If he wants to spook the shit out of somebody, let him spook the shit out of somebody. You know, kids need to be spooked every now and then anyway. So I'm just hoping that, I understand that it's going to be, it's more swashbuckling, kind of like Pirates of the Caribbean. He said, kind of more swashbuckling. And I'm cool with all of that. Imran Batrak, and it's kind of Star Wars Under the Ocean, which is cool. Imran Batrak, and you know, the deep has not been explored in movies. I think there are a couple of movies that have explored the deep, and usually it wasn't someone living in the deep. All right, we've had Little Mermaid, which was animation, but in terms of live action animation, etc., we've really not had that kind of sort of hyper realism of the deep. And we still don't know much about the deep. We know some things about the deep, and I'm pretty sure they're going to reflect that in the movie. So that's the kind of, you know, the sci-fi kind of fantasy kind of slash comedy adventure kind of rolling kind of Indiana Jones kind of crossover kind of thing you're going to get. Imran Batra says, yeah, it's like they're trying to achieve realism in the context that, deliberately unreal. I'm not quite sure what you're trying to say here. Yeah, it's like they're trying to achieve realism in a context that's deliberately unreal. Yes. So we call that hyper-realism. Now, Zack Snyder, he really takes it very seriously. Like comic book characters, he takes them very, 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 very seriously. Wonder Woman had a little bit more fantasy because it comes from the world of gods and Greek mythos. Aquaman, the same thing. We expect, because Shazam is probably going to be the funniest of all the DC ones we're going to get until we get Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn will probably be rated R funny because Harley's out in the deep end. You know what I'm saying? She's rated R funny. But when you look at, say, for instance, Shazam, Shazam is this kid. It's this kid. It's a little kid. You know, being a superhero, it's that just a recipe for fun, for jokes. And you know, it's gonna be funny. You know, there's gonna be funny situations. It's just going. It has to be funny because you know this is 10-year-old, 8-year-old kid, Billy Batson, with his friends, and so yeah, I'm loving. I'm gonna love Shazam. I think because we've never seen this kind of stuff in comic book genre. We've seen it before. We've seen it in Big and in some other movies, like you know, but we haven't really seen it in the context of a comic book movie. So Disney keeps on. Sorry, not Disney, but the DCEU keeps on bringing first. Aquaman is going to be like the first comic book movie exclusively underwater, and probably the first movie ever exclusively underwater, dealing with underwater peoples and the underwater world and all of that shit. And then Shazam is going to be a first in terms of talking about just the context of a kid as a hero. That's a totally different perspective. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, so we're talking about the future of the DCEU here. I'm coming back to Wonder Woman a little bit. You guys, I want to hear your input on that as well. Oh my God, we got so much. I didn't know you guys talk so much. God, you guys talk too much. My God, I thought I was. Let's see here. Okay, let me see. Let me try and get this. Let me try and get all of this. Oh my God, you guys talk a lot. Oh my gosh, I thought I covered everything. All right, let me see if I can. Let me see if I can get into the discussion here. And Unkindness of Raven says, Black Flex BVS suit looked good. That is Batman's color scheme, and that is his look. Black cowl, cape, gloves, and boots. Black bat symbol and a gray one. Classic. Yeah, he was freaking The Dark Knight, man. The Dark Knight Returns classic. That was straight out of the pages of The Dark Knight Returns. Also, he kind of reminded us of Batman Year One, the classic Batman look. Yeah, he was. I mean, BVS Batman is as close as you get. I mean, the thing about BVS Batman was how Zack Snyder shot him, the color tones, the color palettes. I mean, you look at BVS Batman, it looked like he just look at you and you just feel like shit in your pants. You know what I'm saying? That's what Batman. It symbolizes fear. He symbolized fear. You know, that Batman. You don't want to come across that Batman if you're a criminal. You just don't want to. But in Justice League, we get a different dimension to Batman. He's still the big bruising Batman, but now he's in the world with all these superpowered beings. And I do like his look in the beginning, where even though Joss Whedon shot some, let me just make it abundantly clear. Joss Whedon did not shoot everything that you saw there. Okay? Joss Whedon didn't direct everything you saw. I think particularly Joss Whedon did the dialogue and the scripting, particularly for the Robber and Batman. But there's a lot of action sequences that are probably planned way in advance. The action sequences with the Robber and Batman, you could tell that was something choreographed, and the actor negotiated with the stunt people for that. But then there's the other scenes with the Parademon, where I believe that's Zack Snyder's people did the choreography. And the final scene where Batman jumps off the ledge, oh my God, that was so awesome. And then the scene, whoever made the background scenes and the backdrop and the venue and how he did it. Now, with the shooting angles and stuff, we may have some say on how he wanted the angles done in post. So, you know, or which cameras he would use. And you could tell we go straight up and down, straight from the side most of the time. But oh my God, and the costuming and everything. We know that was already pre-production. But oh my God. I gotta tell you, man, that's the best. We basically kind of have a Batman kind of trilogy going on here. Not really, but it's two Batman movies really, and he cameoed in Suicide Squad. But every time I see Ben Affleck's Batman, shit, I know why people want Ben Affleck to stay on as Batman. Let's just put it that way. I know he's probably outliving his use now, because he's really, the Batman he plays is an old, you know, grizzled Batman. I still look forward to seeing Ben Affleck's Batman in Justice League 2. You know, Charles Roven was talking about trying to get a Justice League 2 going, because there's a follow-up to Justice League. There's a Justice League 2. You know, and we have now two options. Will we see Darkseid, or will it be Lex Luthor? Will Darkseid be there with Lex Luthor? You know, that kind of shit. I mean, oh, God dang. I don't want to think about the future right now. It's just too much for me. The fanboy in me is losing it. But we'll see what happens. You know, I do want to see a director's cut for Zack Snyder's movie. I'm keeping the cut that I have, that I purchased online, the digital copy, and I also want to get a DVD and Blu-ray for Justice League. I love it. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes footage showing us that Zack Snyder was responsible for, as we said before, the majority of this movie. 85%, 90% of this movie was Zack Snyder's doing. Because Terry had a lot to do with the scripting. Whedon was trying to help tie up the scripting and stuff. We got a nice little movie though. We got a nice little movie. This Justice League movie is a nice little movie. I enjoy it. It's better than almost any MCU movie out there. And it's better than, and I think it's better than almost all the DCEU movies. Okay, and that's a big compliment right there. I know Zach was going much bigger than that, much more grand, much more epic, and little things, little details, and just the physics of things that Zach is so good at doing. And specific camera angles and just the certain kind of look that Zach gives you, and then the way how Zach would tie up the CG. If you look at Man of Steel CG, it's almost perfect. Okay, you look at Batman v Superman CG, it's crazy perfect. Like the detail that, yeah, gosh. Oh. Okay, guys, I'm getting emotionally and mentally overloaded just thinking about Zack Snyder, what he does with his movies. It's just so overwhelming. So much to talk about. I don't know how to do it. Matt Reeves talked about Batman and talking about, you know, what Zack Snyder's going for with Batman. He's interested in doing. Just so much stuff to talk about. So let's try and sort ourselves out here. Let me go through you guys' comments, okay? Because you guys are having me. I'm losing my mind a little bit, and I shouldn't be losing my mind. I'm just kind of losing it a little bit. I lost track of Wonder Woman and everything. But let me try to get back on track here, okay? Batman's BBS. Oh, yes. Unkindness Raven says, I'm glad I'm not the only one who likes the Shazam costume reveal. Oh, come on, man. It's Shazam. It's Shazam. You know what I'm saying? I absolutely loved it, man. The first time I saw it, and the only we saw was from behind, and his cape. Do you like that cape? That cape is nuts. You know, Imran Batra. Haha, me too. And Unkindness of Ravens. There's a rumor that WB is getting ready to drop some heavy bad news on the world that will be a bombshell and spell the doom for the whole DCEU. But that would be terrible. I hope not to hear that. I hope that rumor is not true because I love the DCEU. I don't know if I can just move away from that. I don't know what that rumor is about anyway. And Unkindness of Raven. Anybody know about it? Campia hinted at it. John Campia? I don't know. I mean, John Campia, I don't know. He's been wrong before, so I don't know what they're talking about. I wonder what the bad news is, though. Unkindness of Raven says Matt Reeves has gone on record to affirm that he's not leaving the Batman production, but Campia said that's not the news. I wonder what it is. Imran Batra says, yeah, I'm making a sort of fan edit just for myself. I'm using the Wonder Woman deleted scene as the prologue instead of the Superman thing. The idea was good in that scene. The mustache was a little cringy. Which scene is that you're talking about, Imran Batra? Unkindness of Raven says Tom Cruise refused to let Cavill shave. He's the reason we got the funny super face. No, it has nothing to do with Tom Cruise. It has to do with Henry Cavill's contract with Mission Impossible. Mission Impossible, they're not trying to do a lot of CG. So, yes, of course, Henry Cavill has to keep his mustache in order. But you have realized, even in Man of Steel, Henry Cavill had a mustache and a beard, okay? And in the latter end of the movie, he didn't have it. So, it's okay. I mean, look, guys. Warner Bros. Tried to work around that. And it didn't quite work out the way they wanted to, and then they had all this negative press and all this stuff around Henry Cavill's mustache and all that. There's nothing you can do about that. What you can do is, I really love Justice League, given that there's a little bit of uncanny valley. By the way, the 4K version has a better look of his face. Okay, his face looks better. Okay, it looks a lot better than when I first saw it in the theaters, and it wasn't really that big a deal. Some people didn't even notice it. So I'm just saying, it's a much ado about nothing, in my opinion. Imran Batra, if you're a story-oriented person, Imran Batra says, haha, I love Tom Cruise, but if that's the case, he's a little nuts. No. Tom Cruise, by the way, broke his leg, okay, in a stunt. You see this guy's leg went all the way back. I mean, goddamn, still healing up. you know. And I'm happy for Henry Cavill. I hope he does well in Mission Impossible. He always wanted to do, James Bond, Mission Impossible stuff. So I'm happy he's getting to do that with Universal. Black Panther is doing very well in the theaters, though. Yes, and I'm happy for it, man. I'm happy for that, and it's a movie that deserves to be doing well. I'm just saying the Justice League deserve to do well as well. On the kindness of Ravens, as the Hollywood system moves away from the star system, he became less and less relevant. Oh, that's Tom Cruise. Okay, you guys are going off on a tangent here. Let me move back. Not sure what Campia could be talking about, but I might even be okay with a full reboot because Zack's trilogy is now complete. Oh, hell no. Do not reboot the DCEU. You reboot the DCEU and you give me any kind of shit that I don't want, I'm gone. You know, I don't believe in no full reboot for the DCEU. I like it just the way it is. I like meaningful stories with layers and context. I don't want a Marvel-based film. Unkindness of Ravens, Black Panther is a powerhouse. Black Panther is good. It's not better than Justice League. It's not better than Wonder Woman. But it's good. It's not even better than Star Wars: The Last Jedi. But it adds to the narrative. All these stories have been giving you a narrative, and it builds on them. I talked about the CGI in Black Panther. It's not the greatest CGI in the world, but I love the movie to death. Again, you can love a movie to death and overlook the flaws in the movie. And that's the thing. Black Panther is a very serious, they take the characters seriously. I love that. I love the story. I love the story within the story. And I love the social consciousness of the movie. And it's not just race and being black people and black people doing good things. No, this movie says a lot more than that. Just like how Wonder Woman is not just about women and feminism, and it's deeper than that. And I like that these movies are doing that. And the director did an excellent job of directing that movie. So absolutely, Black Panther deserves everything that it's getting. And the hype on Black Panther is real. It's real. Marvel did a great job. I remember Joss Whedon praising Marvel for Black Panther. He deserved to praise Marvel for Black Panther. He didn't deserve to praise Marvel for Thor Ragnarok. That was shit. But that's my opinion. It's my opinion. It's my opinion. It's just my opinion. But he did deserve to praise Marvel for Black Panther. That was the way you do a movie. All right? That's the way you do a movie. And if they keep on that track, if Infinity War is anything like Black Panther, they'll be doing things the right way. You gotta give people something. Don't give them empty entertainment. And that's what they gave, as far as I'm concerned, they gave the public in Spider-Man. And I know Spider-Man had some layers to it. I know it had some depth. I know Thor Ragnarok had some layers and depth to it. I know that Iron Man, Captain America, Civil War, all of them had a little bit of Winter Soldier, had a little bit of depth to them. But it's nothing that would motivate people to change and do things. Zack Snyder's films do that. And I'm not saying just Zack Snyder. I thought the DCEU did a great job of that. Okay, Suicide Squad didn't necessarily have a call to action in it, unlike Wonder Woman and Man of Steel and Batman v Superman and Justice League. But Suicide Squad showed us that even bad people can do good things. And there's some redeemable qualities. You know what I'm saying? And it also helped us to understand them a little bit. Whereas there are some people who are unredeemable, period. All right. Unknown of Raymond says, the thing is that would be bad news to Campia. It's something else. Dave Ethan says, not a good idea, Imran. Not quite sure what you're talking about. Yeah, maybe. Imran Batter says, really have no idea what it could be. David Bright. That's it, Dave Ethan. Bright. Yeah, man. Bright was, and he turned out to be a Bright, right? The human turned out to be a Bright, which was really, oh man, I gotta do a breakdown on Bright. Oh gosh, I got so many movies I gotta do a breakdown on. Now I'm losing it again. I need to stay focused here. The Unkindness of Raven says, personally, I would have hired Wes Anderson to direct a Superman film instead of Snyder. Tony Gilroy, Logan, Purvis to help write. I don't know too much about these guys you're talking about. Quite frankly, I loved Zack Snyder. He's the guy that made me love Superman. And I love, you see, what Zack Snyder did was he showed us the qualities of Superman. And he let us understand that hope is not this fickle thing that you see in superhero movies where everything's going well and here's the hope to save the day. It's not quite that. You know what I'm saying? And so he did it in a much more real way, which is why that movie changed my life, changed a lot of people's lives, helped people get over and overcome their cancer. Some people had depression and they were going to commit suicide and they stopped doing it. That's the kind of movie it was. Great movie. Emma Batcher says Wes Anderson would be better for a Flash movie, I think. I think the two guys who did Spider-Man Homecoming and just recently did this movie here that's just came out in cinemas, I forgot, Game Night. I think those guys are going to be doing the Flash movie, and I'm interested to see what happens. I mean, again, we got in this crossover with guys who directed a Marvel film coming across to DC to direct a DC film. I don't have a problem with it. I don't know how it'll work out because they did Spider-Man Homecoming, right? And then will they be doing another Spider-Man movie? We don't know. And they're also working with, and that's the thing about the industry. Guys sometimes work on one side or the other side. The guy who was playing Loki in Thor Ragnarok, he's the guy that was playing the scientist in Kong Skull Island. He did an excellent job. It was much more realistic based movie, of course, in Kong Skull Island. And then he could play this lighter character, Loki. You know, he's like, behold! I'll never forget that. It was funny as hell in Thor Ragnarok. Behold your savior! You know, that's what a hero is, a superhero. So Loki, who's not considered a superhero, comes into superhero mode. You know, it's just crazy, and he's bringing his attention to himself. It's just so cool. But here we are talking about this, and I just think that, again, there's a lot of crossover in superhero movies. I know a lot of people think that, you know, Marvel only keeps their characters to the, yeah. You got contracts with people to do a certain character, but it doesn't mean you can't go about, remember, it's a business, right? Imran Batra says, for Superman, I like Snyder. If I had to choose someone else, I'd go for Matt Vaughn. Well, Zack Snyder loves Superman. If you haven't realized that by now, Superman is probably his best character. And everybody was saying, well, Zack Snyder hates Superman and stuff. You know, people were just attacking Zack Snyder. And I'm glad that Zack Snyder's at least getting validated now in the industry. Not necessarily in the industry, because, again, haters are hating on his movie, Justice League. Whether you like it or not, they're hating on his movie. But I'm glad he's getting his just due, and people actually coming out and showing their support and love for him. It's sad. It took the death of his daughter. It took him not being able to finish his own movie for people to realize that. Okay, and appreciate him. And still, I listen to some of these hypocrites and some of these so-called Snyder fans. No disrespect to the real Snyder fans or the people who even were angry about Justice League, who had just cause for it. But some of these fake Snyder fans come out there and they're talking about BVS now. Like, screw you. And why I say screw you is because, in my opinion, you're talking about BVS and Justice League is out. And Justice League is actually finishing off some of the things that BVS was talking about. Like, you're praising BVS, you're putting down Justice League, and Justice League is actually tying the loose ends to that. Shut up. Emran Batra says, hey, Infinity War might not have a message like the DC movies. I do love DC, but I'm also really excited to see Infinity War. I'm not. I'm sorry, buddy. I'm just not excited to see that. Dave Ethan. Don't know about that, Imran. Exactly. The Infinity War bit? Not that. Superman future film. Oh, the future Superman films, Man of Steel, they're calling it Man of Steel 2 for some reason. I don't know why. I don't think it should be called Man of Steel 2. I think Man of Steel 2 was Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, to be honest with you. That was actually literally a follow-through from Man of Steel. And I think a lot of you guys don't understand something else. Zack Snyder actually did the preparatory story for when Clark is becoming Superman. Should I say, let me correct myself, Kal-El is becoming Superman. His name is Kal-El. And a lot of y'all are going to watch me and be like, what? And be like, I actually have footage where Henry Cavill calls himself Kal-El. His Earth's adopted name is Clark. It's kind of like where people nickname you a certain name and everybody knows about the nickname, but your real name that your birth parents gave you is something else. But you're known by your earthly name because you relate to people on an earthly level, but you're not earthly. Let me explain what you mean. The potential of a person is basically what they really are. So, for instance, if I am, for instance, I don't want to go there. That's too supernatural. If I am somebody who is capable of creating and inventing anything I put my mind to, I'm creating. That's part of who I am. It's a gifting. And also, but people address me and behave as if I am someone who is like everyone else, where I am kind of limited by what I can do. but I really can do anything, and I can do it rather quickly, right? I'm a genius. But nobody really, I don't relate to people as if I'm a genius. I relate to everybody else as if I'm just an ordinary guy like them. That's Superman. Superman is otherworldly. He's not worldly. He's a Kryptonian. He's not a human. But he's adopted, he's been trained, and he's grown up as a human. And the thing that separates Superman is the thing that made humanity afraid of him, chastise him, etc. And we saw it as a child. And this is the thing that Zack Snyder was able to highlight. Superman's not a human being, and yet he exemplifies as best as he can the best traits of humanity, because he's been a sojourner here, and he has learned our ways, so he appreciates them. It's kind of like someone coming from another country to your country. They appreciate your country more and will use the resources in your country more than you would, because you've taken those things for granted and you don't utilize them. It's like that. That's what Superman is. He's like the guest on planet Earth, and he's got all these excellent features about him, but these excellent features are not seen by him as excellent because he's suffered to have them. He's had to suppress them. He's not truly been himself among Earth, because if Kal-El is to truly express himself, he'll no longer be Clark Kent. His full potential is way beyond ours. He can do things we can never dream of doing. And that's the difference. So he's really Kal-El. However, because Kal-El is dedicated to bridging that gap between Krypton and Earth and being able to help guide and help to inspire people to be better, Kal-El has assimilated himself amongst mankind. And he's also surrendered certain capabilities that he's able to do amongst mankind. He's suffered to gain these abilities. His mother realized he struggled to breathe on Earth. She realized he struggled. We saw him struggle as a child going through puberty, in that he had all of these other extra abilities and he didn't know how to focus them. We saw him struggle among human beings themselves, the cruelty of humanity and the way how humanity would treat him out of fear. But yet he's seen love. The first thing we see with Kal-El on Earth is a human being save his life, or attempt to save his life, from a falling fish basket thing, you know. So it shows that mankind is good. And while he was saying, you know, man, Greenhorn, I don't know what's wrong with you, Greenhorn, you could see him admiring the man for saving his life, even though the guy's cursing him out after. All right, let's keep it going. Emran Batra, yeah, I agree. It would make sense for his costume to be so colorful because it's based on what a child sees a superhero as. Might also be really interesting to see something different in the DCEU. Yes, exactly. Tony Gilroy is a very good director. I'd put him on Superman. Then there's Greta Gerwig. I really don't know too much about cast directing. If you're a cast director, that's a casting person, that's great. Imran Batra says, oh, okay, yeah, I don't think they should bring him on after Snyder. Too much of a difference in tone. And then Imran Batra says, yeah, Gilroy would be good. Haven't heard of Greta Gerwig. And Unkindness Arrangement says also Sam Mendes would be excellent. Okay, so you guys are talking about directors, and I really don't know too much about that. I just watch movies and enjoy them. Let's see here. The problem is WB doesn't seem to know who is out there. They pass up all those great directors out there for Snyder and Michael Bay. Do they like working in film? I wonder. First of all, I don't remember Warner Brothers picking Michael Bay. That's Universal. You do know that, right? Michael Bay is with Universal, and Zack Snyder is with Warner Brothers. And Zack Snyder did films such as, just in case you don't know, Sucker Punch, The Owls of Gahul, Dawn of the Dead, 300, Man of Steel. And as I said before, Man of Steel is not a Superman movie. It is about how Kal-El becomes Superman. It's kind of like Batman Begins, okay? So I think a lot of times you guys don't even understand what you were watching. It's not a Superman film. You know, the Superman film, we jump to Clark Kent in the Daily Planet, right? We get about 10, 15 minutes of his development, and then we jump right to Clark Kent in the Daily Planet. That was Superman 1978. This doesn't start there. This shows us leading up. to him getting to the Daily Planet. It's a totally different story. That's why it's called Man of Steel. It's not called Superman. Snyder is very careful with what he says, okay? Zack Snyder is not Michael Bay. Please do not rate Zack Snyder as similar to Michael Bay. Michael Bay does action. He's good at action. He never has deep stories. He's not philosophical, okay? He's not Zack Snyder. He doesn't think everything through. He doesn't deal with science. He doesn't deal with the physics of motion and that kind of stuff. Michael Bay is purely visual. Very fantastical, over-the-top kind of guy. Don't mix him up with Zack Snyder, okay? It's just two different directing styles. They may have gone to the same film school. They're not the same, okay? And no, Warner Brothers has not allowed Michael Bay to do any of their recent movies. Eamon Baxter says, I was talking about the Mother Box deleted scene. Yes, man, that's a connection. And that brings me back to what we were originally talking about. You guys just keep on talking, man. You guys don't stop. I wanted to show the connection, the continuity between Wonder Woman from BVS to Wonder Woman to Justice League. And I was speaking about the ancillary characters because it is the connection all the way from BVS to Justice League. It's beautiful, actually. And it overlaps a lot of stuff that I think is just wonderful to look at. So the richness continues on where, of course, we have the key scene where Wonder Woman is declared to the world, and she speaks out, she shows herself because it's necessary. If you notice, necessity is the thing that drives Diana to do things. And she's always seeking to help people. And I showed you the parallels. Let me show you how much Diana is consistent. In BVS, when Doomsday comes as a threat, Diana comes to save the world from Doomsday. In Wonder Woman, the woman comes and tells her how they don't have food in the city. It drives her to cross no man's land and go to that city and save it so that they could have food and supplies. In Justice League, Diana notices that people are under a terrorist threat. She comes down from above the building of justice. She inquires from the terrorists what is going on, and then she saves the people from the terrorists. The consistency of Diana throughout the DCEU, from BVS to Wonder Woman to Justice League, should I say it the right way? In the right sequence would be Wonder Woman to BVS to Justice League. She's been consistent as a character, but then we have to look at the ancillary characters, the players alongside her. All right? If you look at the players alongside her in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, the players alongside her were Bruce Wayne, and Clark finally meets her, right? And also we have Lois Lane. Lois Lane, Clark, Bruce Wayne. Okay? When we look at when she goes into Wonder Woman, she has ancillary characters working alongside her. And some of these ancillary characters are very important to her, and we're introduced to them. Hippolyta, Antiope, I forgot her name. She's a priestess, and she's also a general. I forgot her name. We have Steve Trevor, Etta Candy, Charlie, and Chief, and Sammy. Okay, these ancillary characters carry on into Justice League. Sammy, Charlie, Etta Candy, and Chief, they go on to discover the Mother Box. That Mother Box carries on, and then we get this trickle effect across the Cyborg. Hippolyta, we see a flashback with Antiope, and Menelipe, that's the name I'm looking for. Menelipe, they carry on. You see that Diana has not gone back to the Amazons. She's not going back to Themyscira. And the Amazonians, or the Amazons, they are in a separate world. They cannot cross over to Diana, but yet Hippolyta knows how to cross that world, breach that gap, send a message to Diana. And then Diana again works along with Bruce, and then finally works along with Clark. But she does not call him Clark; she calls him Kal-El, right? So there's all of this continuity. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Imran Batter says, I talk about another Dave Ethan says, reboot the DCU is not only a bad idea, but a lazy move that could spell doom to all comic book genre. That's correct, because how I see it, Dave Ethan, is if you were to reboot the DCEU, you would kill all of the momentum that is to launch. This is what Zack Snyder was saying. When you reach the Justice League, it helps to launch. Zack has been speaking about this from way back when, from when he was talking about Batman v Superman. He said that Justice League would launch all these other superhero stories. So what Zack was doing and the WB were doing was launching these other characters. Now, Justice League kind of failed on them a bit, but it still managed to make some kind of money. And it only happened because of negativity in the atmosphere. People were extremely negative about these movies. Incredible movies. I mean, Justice League is incredible. The scenes, the underwater scene in Atlantis, the freaking Great War, which is the price of admission itself. I mean, freaking Great War, man. It's epic. It's incredible, okay? And beautiful, mind you. You got the tunnel sequence. You got the Superman rebirth sequence. It's not called the resurrection. It's called rebirth sequence. And then we have rebirth comics, right? And then you have the final fight sequence, right? So all in all, the only one I think that did not live up to par was the final fight sequence, and that's okay. I mean, I just don't get it. I mean, it was an incredibly epic movie. Leroy Silo says, I'm sick of hearing about the DCU WB have Weinsteined it. Get over it. Dave Ethan says, yeah, I'm so looking forward to seeing future Superman movies in the DC. Of course, you're a big Superman fan. Unkindness of Raven says, I understand what you're saying. Unkindness of Raven says, WB's trying to get Michael Bay to direct upcoming DCU films. That story has been broken 2 weeks ago. WB released that story on that. Okay. Any studio that passes up great directors like Wes Anderson and Sam Mendes for Michael Bay and Snyder doesn't want to make great films. Okay. 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 Let's see what else we got here. Right. So, yes, the DCEU. Where are we? Are we good? Okay, we're good. Yeah, so the DCEU is the DCEU moving forward. We're realizing that we're talking about Shazam, we're talking about Aquaman, and I think the DCEU, the whole point behind the DCEU was it's poised to move forward, launch forward with these movies. Like I said, the tying up of the DCEU movies is what I enjoy, really, right? Tying them in, tying up different ones. I was speaking about in my previous video about the DCU movies being tied to the Matrix trilogies. I was talking about some other movies that were tied to. I can't remember what they are now. But when you think about just Wonder Woman in and of herself, the character has some other dimensions to her that we haven't really spoken about, and that was. We talk about her being, the beginning of justice. We talk about her being loving and kind. We also have to talk about her relationship with Batman. But at the end of the day, what it looks like is Diana, though somewhat of a loner, for all that time she was mostly in the shadows. And I'm looking forward to Wonder Woman 2, or whatever Wonder Woman 2 is. Seems as though it's going to be something of magic, they said. I'm looking forward to seeing how her story fills out before Justice League. I'm looking forward to that because there's some other dimensions to Wonder Woman. Of course, we know Wonder Woman gets the job done. She gets the job done. She does not quit. But I think there's some other dimensions to Wonder Woman that are yet to be explored and yet to be seen. And possibly in Wonder Woman 2, we'll get that with Patty Jenkins in her sequel. I know that Jeff Johns had a hand in, I believe, Aquaman, also in the making of Aquaman. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that would look like as well. So, I'm very intrigued, very interested, very excited for the future of the DCEU. But what we as DCEU fans are supposed to be doing is we're supposed to be trying to keep our excitement and also debunk any kinds of negativity. Because I did not like what happened with Justice League in the sense that so-called DCEU fans actually bashed the movie that they enjoyed. And there was a lot of bashing. And then, of course, the media, the usual media, bashed this movie to hell. And I thought that was not right. I thought I saw other MCU movies which didn't have the quality of CGI that this movie had, that didn't have the story that this movie had, didn't have the plot that this movie had. And that's looking at you, Thor Ragnarok. And they were praised to no end. They were called the best Marvel movies of all time, the best comic book movie, and all could laud it with. And it was a hunk of shit. I'm going to be honest with you guys. It was shit. Okay. And to get that kind of praise from the critics for a subpar, substandard movie, that's not cool at all, you know. And it seems as though anything Disney does, they're ready to praise it. Anything Sony does, they're ready to praise it. And I'm tired of the politics and the bullshit. So Thor Ragnarok was a hot pile of mess, in my opinion. That's my opinion, of course. It's just my opinion. Of course. And when you look at it, it had to be a good movie because the bulk of people actually enjoyed it. So say what you want. That's my opinion, doesn't really count, because at the end of the day, people went and saw the movie and they actually enjoyed it. So I can't. But for me, my personal opinion, this is again me, I would never pay money to see that stupid thing again. Okay, never. Okay, and I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it near me. That's me. There are people who will say they loved it to death, and that's them. When I'm looking at, when I look at Justice League, tremendously better movie than that. Some people are arguing that Justice League was a better movie than Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and so-called Star Wars fans will tell you how much it was not like Star Wars and blah 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 blah, which I disagree with severely, because I saw A New Hope, I saw Revenge of the Jedi, I saw Revenge of the Sith, I saw Return of the Jedi, and quite frankly, The Last Jedi not only connected with The Force Awakens, but carried that story in the direction of A New Hope, and a totally new direction. And also, it also had Return of the Jedi feelings in it because of what Luke Skywalker said in that movie, which reminded me of some things he said in Return of the Jedi. And for those of you who say, oh, well, you know, Luke Skywalker, that's not Luke Skywalker. Well, Luke Skywalker, he loses his temper. Luke Skywalker, he's sometimes impatient. Luke Skywalker, he sometimes gets control over emotional, and sometimes he gets, how do we put it? Just like his father, Anakin Skywalker, okay? And that's why Master Yoda had to keep him in check, okay? And so for people to say that, you know, that's not Luke Skywalker, no, they explored those aspects of Luke Skywalker. Yes, he is hopeful. Yes, he was somebody who persists. Yes, he was very determined. Yes, he held on to the light, okay? And the thing about it is, in Rey, you see those things too. But Rey also went sometimes down a path that it seemingly shouldn't go. Just like how Luke went down a path that seemingly he shouldn't go. And we were scared for him. So now Luke sees Rey in that position, remembers Ben Solo, aka Kylo Ren, and he's panicking all over the place, which is something that Luke does. So when Master Yoda comes back and starts speaking to him, it makes sense to me, okay? So for all those Star Wars fans, you know, who say you're purists, again, there's this idiocracy about some of you guys, you know, because you feel that Luke is this great hero. He should never be this way. Many, many years. He failed with Ben Solo. You expect him to just be all hunky-dory and gay? Come on, man. Be realistic. And so they were angry that they killed off Luke Skywalker, and they said it was unceremoniously, when it was ceremoniously. He went out the best way, better than Obi-Wan Kenobi did, better than Master Yoda did. He went out better, more grander than all of them, using the Force in ways that we've seen before but never really fully understood. I mean, come on, man. He even described the Force better than we ever understood before. You know, and it's these kinds of things. And then they call themselves Star Wars fans. They didn't watch the Clone Wars. They're not even watching Star Wars Rebels right now, okay? But they call themselves great Star Wars fans. You read Star Wars comics with all the adventures from Luke Skywalker. Yes, I get it. He's the central focus of Star Wars. If you read comics, you're going to read about Luke. Fine. But his era has to come to an end because Star Wars was always before Luke Skywalker was on the scene. Star Wars was there. All right. We learn about all these Sith Lords way before Darth Vader and Anakin Skywalker and all these things, thousand years before that. So what's the problem? We even have video games from before. Okay. So what's the problem? Why can't we have these stories? So, I mean, some people need to take their head out of their butt and just let the thing move on. You know, some people they're so resistant to change. All right. And this is the kind of nonsense we have to deal with. We have to put up with small-minded people who make a lot of noise. Anyways, I enjoyed talking to you guys, and you guys kind of fueled the discussion here. But I just want to still talk about some of the connections between the DCEU and also Justice League, and also DCU movies with DCU movies. So if you look at Suicide Squad, some elements of Suicide Squad are actually in Justice League. All right. First of all, we see a nice snapshot of Batman before BVS that we saw in Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad gave us a taste of that. We also got a taste of the Flash in action in Suicide Squad. So we got a little bit more. First, we were introduced to the Flash in BVS, just a small little taste of him. Then we got a small taste of him in Suicide Squad. And guess what? The Flash is consistent in Justice League. He explains, I just push people and run away. And he gets his first set of action, his first set of fighting in Justice League, right? He gets exposed to that. But again, what I like about Justice League is they're not really focusing on destroying the bad guy, the big baddie. They're focused on saving people. So we see the Flash saving a lot of people's lives in Justice League. We see Superman saving lives in Justice League. In fact, most of what the Flash does is save lives. I think he did protect Cyborg by knocking out a couple of parademons. He did knock out a couple of parademons also in the underground sequence. But for the most part, the Flash was always saving somebody's life. I thought that was pretty cool. That was almost like Superman-esque. And then when we look at Wonder Woman, she saves people's lives. In the beginning of the movie, her intro is saving lives. That is not the case with Batman. That's what appeals, I guess everybody appeals to Batman. Batman is just the opposite of that. Batman's taking somebody down. That's what Batman does. So he takes down, first of all, the rubber, and then he takes down the parademon. It's Batman. Badass, by the way. And Batman comes face to face because Batman's about stopping Steppenwolf. Batman is one of those who's about, when you think of Batman, you got to have a big baddie. Because it's because of Batman, we got to have Steppenwolf. If Batman wasn't in the equation, we could have just done a movie where, you know, everybody's saving everybody. You know, Cyborg, you look at Cyborg. Cyborg's not really taking anybody down. He does take around 1 or 2 parademons. But for the most part, Cyborg's the dude tapping into things, tapping into gadgets, doing the work. That's Cyborg, right? So I love the combination of characters. But what I'm saying is the follow through, the flow. Batman in Justice, in Batman v Superman, right? Then we see Batman, younger Batman in Suicide Squad. All right, and now we see Batman, and having to pull together a team and having to work to stop this threat because Batman is all about stopping something. You see him in Justice League, and I think that's so cool. And then the nice thing about him, trying to push off and get the Hall of Justice going in Wayne Manor, the abandoned Wayne Manor. Zack Snyder flowing that thing all the way through. And we know that scene with Batman talking about the cheers and stuff in Wayne Manor, we know that Zack Snyder directed that, not just Whedon, like y'all think it is for some reason. Some of y'all been saying that. It's just messed up. All right, Dave Ethan, man. Peace to you, brother. Have a good night. So at the end of the day, it's just cool to talk about the DCEU. And how these things internet. And then the other interesting thing about it is, anybody saw that Batman was introduced in Man of Steel? Anybody saw that? When they were in the Wayne Towers, it's funny. It says, everybody stay calm. Batman is here, or something. Batman is coming, or something like that. So they actually introduced Batman. And then, of course, Batman was introduced with Wayne Manor's satellite in space and some of Wayne Manor's stuff. Wayne Enterprises stuff was in there, and Lex Luthor stuff was in there. And I asked you guys to check out Easter eggs about hinting to Batman being in different places, because that was one of the cool things I really also liked about Man of Steel. From Man of Steel all the way through you have Batman flowing. Batman's presence is in that universe, and that's another cool thing about it. We haven't really talked much about Alfred, but Alfred is an interweaving thread, and there's a lot we can learn about Alfred, and there's a lot that from BVS all the way into Justice League, Alfred has these consistently interesting moments. Now, Alfred's only been in 2 of the DCEU films, but he's another ancillary character, and it's really fun. He's always been fun throughout this movie. He has this sort of dry wit. He's very snarky, and I like that about him. He's feisty. And Alfred has a sense of morality to him. You know, the one thing I like about Alfred is he gives it truly and honestly to Bruce Wayne. And while Bruce Wayne is his boss, they have this sort of partnership in tandem. And Alfred is sort of a guy who suggests the logical reasoning. And Alfred proved to be correct throughout BVS. He was the guy, you know, when Bruce was saying, "What would I do without you, Alfred?" And then Alfred gives him back a snarky comment. I can't remember what it was. It was very hilarious. And it's interesting to see that Alfred in Justice League is very much the Alfred we know. And it's interesting how prophetic Alfred is. So let me give you an idea of what I'm talking about. In Batman v Superman, Alfred pretty much sizes up what is happening with Bruce Wayne, and he tells him, you know, it turns good men cruel, and that proved to be correct. And then he goes on to say, I hope some woman will make you honest. And then exactly that happened. Diana comes on the scene, pushes Bruce to be more honest about what he's doing to Superman, and helps him to see that metahumans can be good. And then he gets very hopeful after that. And it's interesting, in Justice League now, Alfred not only speaks about things pointing to what Bruce would do, in that he's talking about, he makes this very funny joke where he's talking about Bruce being interested in Diana, and it's not just her skill set. But he also is very snarky and funny in terms of when Bruce says, you know, I thought you would have called Diana. No, I think it's there are 2 reasons he doesn't want to call Diana. 1, he's had a bad experience with her, and he realizes she's very powerful and strong. 2, he realizes also that she had a connection with Steve Trevor. Right? So it's very funny to see him. He knows he has to connect with Diana. He's trying to work out the logistics, and you can see Bruce trying to work out the logistics, and you can see Alfred. Now, here's what Alfred said that was very interesting. First of all, Alfred said, "You have a team here, you know." But what I don't understand is that I don't know if Zack Snyder had it a different way, where Alfred was talking to Bruce and he was talking about what you're going to do with this team. I saw that in the trailers, but then when I looked at the actual movie, it was giving a different angle or view on things, where it was talking more about, you know, you have a team here, Bruce. You know, Bruce was talking about Superman doing a better job than he would. Now, I don't know if the trailers are right or if there's an alternate cut or whatever, but I take from it is that Bruce found it difficult to lead the team, was hoping that Diana would lead it. Didn't, and it seems that Alfred was saying, "No, man, you should have confidence in yourself and lead this team. You don't need Superman to do that." And in the end, again, Alfred is proved prophetically to be correct. When Batman is going into his doom, he's going to do kamikaze, and the team comes and protects him. And Batman says, "This is not the plan." And Alfred says, "No, Master Bruce," or Master Wayne, I can't remember what he said. "This is the team." And Alfred's able to feel happy about that because he's validated by the team that Bruce is there to lead. And so almost every time Alfred has these moments where he's proven correct. And this is like a duplication of BVS all over again. And I find that very interesting. And Alfred's story, again, is another piece that adds to the beauty of Justice League, tying up loose ends between Alfred and Bruce. There's some other things. Alfred always has this desire for Bruce to hook up with someone and to have young Waynes, the next generation of Waynes. And I think it was in BVS, he said, words to the effect of, the next generation of Waynes would inherit an empty wine cellar. If there will be a next generation of Waynes. he's, he's very bitter and sarcastic about that. Everybody knows from every iteration of Batman we've seen, from Batman 1989, I'm talking live action film, Batman 1989 to what's his name? Christopher Nolan's trilogy, where finally Batman hooks up with Selina Kyle in that one. That Alfred is happy when Batman hooks up with somebody and stays with them. Hopefully he has some children, like Damian Wayne. And what's funny about that is Diana. You can see Alfred is very, at the end of Justice League, coming to the end, and Diana's talking about and room for more. And it's just so funny, so many things play through my mind when I think of a room for more, because Alfred's happy for more people to be there. And then also he's thinking the next generation of Waynes. Because Batman, Bruce Wayne, this is not any new news. Bruce Wayne's a playboy. And clearly in BVS, we know he sleeps around with different women, because we saw a woman in his bed when he had the nightmare. He woke up and drank the alcohol and he got up and he moved away. There was a woman sleeping in his bed. On top of that, he also said to Clark Kent in BVS, pretty woman, bad habit. Don't quote me in that, right? So Bruce Wayne, he don't play. You know what I'm saying? He got his woman and stuff. But what's interesting to me is the point. I don't know who that woman was sleeping in his bed, by the way. I don't know if that's Selina Kyle or who that was. And why would he have somebody sleeping in his bed? Unless, that person probably knows, or maybe not, because all his business is really in the underground cave. So I guess, But it's interesting that Diana knows where to go to find him. That's another interesting thing. But I find that Bruce-Diana dynamic is very interesting. Very interesting. Instead of Diana Superman or Diana Kal-El, we got this Bruce-Diana thing going on. Kal-El working with Amy Grant's, it's Amy Adams' character, which is Lois Lane. All these godlike beings, because Diana's half god, half Amazonian. And we got Bruce Wayne. That would make sense. That would be like Diana and Steve Trevor. And they seem to be discussing Steve Trevor a lot, so that's interesting. And then we have, say, Kal-El, which is a godlike being, and Lois Lane. So there's this gods and man thing going on there. It's pretty interesting. And so I find that always interesting. But it's just that arc with Alfred that I like and really enjoy a lot of. So much to talk about. I don't know if I can stop. Can I stop? Is it possible? Then we have, I can go on forever, guys. So bear with me. So I don't know if I'll talk until I can't talk anymore, but we're going to keep this going. The other thing that's very interesting about the characters that we see, we saw the Flash, but Man of Steel introduced us to some of these characters even before these characters came to the scene in these subsequent movies. All right. So we know that the Flash was in Suicide Squad, etc. But what I want you guys to do is do some homework and find out if there's any evidence for some of these other characters besides Batman being present in the universe and Green Lantern being present in the universe, Metallo being present in the universe. Remember Metallo? We saw evidence of Metallo in BVS. We have Red. Shoot, I forgot what her name is. But the Major, who was working along with General Swanwick. Can't remember her name right now. Carrie something. I can always look it up. But that Major, she would be not a Green Lantern. She would be something associated with the Green Lantern. Which would be very interesting. I'll see if I can find it. But my point being, there may be evidence for more of these Justice Leaguers from Man of Steel. At least the end of Man of Steel. We might get some evidence of that. Because remember, the end of Man of Steel begins the beginning of BVS. We know that Metallo existed in the world of at least some point near to Man of Steel. Some point with Man of Steel, or maybe in between Man of Steel and BVS, Metallo's there. And then we have some other characters that we see on the scene. So we know the Mother Box has been around for a while. We know, oh, Kara L. We know Kara L is floating around somewhere in this universe. She's alive, even though she's really, really, really old, maybe even older than Wonder Woman. So we got all these interesting characters that are on the scene in this universe. Of course, Shazam is there. What would be nice is to see if we could find any evidence of Shazam in some of this trilogy and in some of these DCEU movies. So I'm just saying that there's all of those little itsy bits to go look for in these universes. What else can I tell you guys? With regards to, I think I talked enough about the DCEU. We talked up a storm here. Justice League, I think, is a movie that helps to tie up Wonder Woman, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, particularly. There's some elements in Suicide Squad. When we look at the other characters, such as Lois Lane, which Lois Lane starts all the way back. She's introduced pretty early in Man of Steel, and we see her development. We see her development in terms of her discovery of Kal-El, her hunting down of Kal-El, her ability to win Kal-El's trust, and finally to work along with Kal-El and build a relationship with Kal-El. First, it was under stressful circumstances, and then later on, we see her settle down with Kal-El in BVS, defend Kal-El, and actively protect Kal-El, his integrity, his image, to reinforce and strengthen him. She works along with Martha Kent, who's also been all the way through the only DCEU films that they're not seen in are Wonder Woman and Suicide Squad. We don't see those characters. We see Superman prevailing through all the DCEU movies. Hawkman and Girl in Suicide Squad Midway City. Yes, go find out if Hawkman and Girl are anywhere else mentioned or hinted to in other DCEU movies. Remember, we had Midway City, yes, but we had Central City on display. We've been to Midway City, Central City, Gotham, Metropolis. We've been to London. We've been to Atlantis, Themyscira. We've been to Russia, particularly a place called Bizornov. So there's a number of venues. So what I try to advise people is go back now and look at the DCU. We've seen a Green Lantern in the Great War. Also, this is very interesting. We saw the Vikings. Now, I don't know what you guys think, but if we see the Vikings, is it possible? Think about this now. Think about what I'm saying, because we have directors coming across from Marvel. Is it possible that we can have the Green Lantern? We have the Vikings. Is it possible that Thor, at some point, Thor, listen to me carefully, because I remember Gal Gadot and Chris Hemsworth, they were having a little dialogue thing going on there. And we even heard at the end of Justice League people talking about, hey, man, we wouldn't mind having some Marvel characters across in the DCEU and vice versa. Is it possible that these Vikings could hint us to Thor at some point in time, the Norse god, and that even though Thor was seen in Thor Ragnarok, maybe being in the DCEU universe, that Thor will be more like, I mean, well, he will be what he is, but I mean, we would get more of a Thor-like epic kind of something going on there at some point. Or maybe we see something about Thor's ancestors and Asgard some point back in history, you know, because we've seen the Vikings, we saw some Asian people, we saw the Atlanteans, of course, in the end scene footage of the Great War. So I'm just saying it's very interesting, and we have Asian people, we had all kinds of people converging in that Great War. All the tribes of man came down to fight. I just thought about that. We have hints of the Green Lantern, one of the oldest, most powerful Green Lanterns, thousands of years ago. I think it was about 5,000 years ago that we had that battle that went on. And then we have so we had hints of Green Lantern here and there. We have Metallo, we have Brainiac, we have some hints of Brainiac. And we even had some advertisements with WB concerning Brainiac. and Lex Luthor with Brainiac. It's very interesting. I'd like to see how they go with that. Of course, I do believe that you should check out Krypton. I'm really highly anticipating Krypton on Sci-Fi Channel. It should come out this month, I believe it is. The 22nd of this month, I think it's coming out. So Krypton, looking forward to that on Sci-Fi Channel, along with now the CW and Gotham on Fox. And then, of course, on the Cartoon Network, we have Justice League Action. So we got all of that spread out there. I know some of you guys are reading the Rebirth comics, the hint to Rebirth with Superman's Rebirth. Really awesome as well. So there's just a lot of things going on inside of these movies that I like. So thank you, Tom Holmes, for talking about Hawkman and Hawkgirl in Suicide Squad Midway City. I can't look forward. I thought the Thanagarians would at least show up in the Great War. I can't tell you if they did or didn't. I don't think they were. I think it was just parademons flying in, but that was an epic scene, though. What are your thoughts on the new Metropolis show coming out? Metropolis show? What Metropolis show is that? Talk to me, Tom Holmes. What Metropolis show is coming out? I know about Krypton. I don't know about Metropolis. Which one is that? I don't know about that. Hit me up about that. New Metropolis show. Oh yeah, I was talking about the new character in Man of Steel, and there's still some other characters we've missed out on. Zack Snyder always has little hits, little Easter eggs, little stuff inside of his films that makes his films all that much more worthwhile to talk about. Could never forget Man of Steel's Smallville fight, man. And you know the thing about Superman, to me, Superman reminds me a lot more of the Smallville Superman when the series the star of Smallville, that show, to me, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Justice League, and Suicide, and those movies remind me of Superman, of Smallville Superman, and they even refer to him as Smallville in BVS. You know, Perry White calls him Hello Smallville because he's got these Middle American values. So I really like that as well. Yeah, let me just hold on 1 second. I just wanted to get who there's a lot of interesting characters. Another thing is we don't know if Feora El is dead. There's a number of members in the Phantom Zone who are still, they exist. They're just in a different place. So I don't know if Dr. Emil Hamilton and Colonel Nathan Hardy are still alive, but the person I am looking for, yes, Major Carrie Farris. Major Carrie Farris. That's the person I'm talking about. She was a Star Sapphire. That's what I'm talking about. In the comics, she was known as Star Sapphire, and she was the love interest of Hal Jordan. The question is Hal Jordan around, and is John Stewart? I think John Stewart, is he around? That's the question. I don't know. Be interesting to find out. Oh, nice. So they're going to have a Metropolis show coming out. Oh, that'd be nice. So the people who worked on Gotham, so that means they may link up Gotham with Metropolis. That would be cool. I would love to see that. I have not actually been following Gotham. That's a movie. That's a show, TV series I should really start following because that looks interesting. The younger people like Catwoman and Batman and the Penguin. That should be interesting as well. So I just want to talk about the DCEU and the future of it. I think the future of the DCEU is still bright. I just hope that we can do damage control on rumors. We need to nip those rumors in the bud. I always think that Warner Brothers needs to do better on their PR. It's not so much that, for instance, this film here, there was no reason why Justice League should have done that poorly at the box office. Should have done much better than that. What I just never could have anticipated was people who enjoy the DCEU and enjoyed this film deciding to bash it and actually discourage other people from going to see it. That's the thing that kind of is sad. But other than that, I think it's a very exciting future because there's just so many different possibilities. Yeah. So Tom Holmes, Dave Ethan. Let's see what else we got here. An Unkindness of Ravens. Imran Batra. Let's see what else we got here. Yep. You guys, man, you have a great night. And hopefully we can talk some more about other things happening in the DCU. Besides Matt Reeves and all these guys talking about the DCU, Patty Jenkins also had her say in what she thought about Joss Whedon leaving the DCEU. I think he's left Batgirl. And again, him leaving the DCEU is not necessarily a good or bad thing. Of course, he doesn't consider himself succeeding with Justice League. So I think that and also the part that he didn't think he had quite a good story to give with Batgirl made him leave the project. But again, for me, the DCEU having the directors that they have, the content that they have, I'm really satisfied with it. Like I said before, I was not interested in seeing the same sort of formulaic kind of storytelling that has been done in the MCU. I was not interested in the MCU. I still am not really quite interested in the MCU. Black Panther does get my interest though. But the MCU just does not cater to people like myself. The DCU caters to me because I feel it's much more grounded, and I feel that the things that are said in it, they don't treat films like in a typical traditional kind of Hollywood way. I just don't like those kinds of films. And so I'm just happy for what the DCU is bringing to the table, and all the research and hard work that's put into the DCU is what I appreciate. I come from more of a scientific background, so I tend to want to see much more grounded, realistic things. All right, man. I hope you guys have a great evening, a great night. It was nice talking to you guys. You guys have a great one.